Alright, so in this video I'm quickly going to talk about garden beds, and I want to share with you my very simple, very low budget design. This is not so much going to be a how-to video, but everything's very simple, and when I walk you through what I did, I'm sure you'll be able to figure out just how to do it without me having to explain, you know, you need to cut the boards here and screw them there. So keep watching. I think there's going to be some helpful info in this little vid. So we wanted 4 garden beds to go in the front yard, and the front yard is slanted, which you'll see later on. So we needed the front of the beds to be a little bit deeper than the back because it's going to be on a hill. So the back is made out of 2 2x6s, whereas the front is made out of 3 2x6s. Got it? Get it? Good. Okay, so there's a lot of great tutorials on YouTube already, but they require you to use cedar. Not all of them, of course, but a lot of people advocate that you should use cedar wood. Cedar's great. It's very mold resistant, it's water resistant. The only trouble is it's very expensive. So when I went to the lumber yard, this 2x6 cost me $6 per board, roughly around that, whereas cedar was $25 to $30 a board. And I wanted to do this whole thing on a budget, so I decided to not use cedar. I went the budget route. So I basically got a bunch of 2x6s. They're Doug fir, so they're very soft wood, not necessarily resistant to moisture, but I have a solution for that, and you'll find out about it a little bit later in the video. The other thing I did with these beds, or attempted to do, and I think I succeeded, was I wanted to make the least amount of cuts possible. I don't have a huge arsenal of tools. I'm sort of handy, but not, you know, I wouldn't call myself a craftsman or a carpenter by any means, so the design had to be super simple, and ideally, you know, like I already said, I wouldn't be making lots of cuts. So I got 2x6s that were 8 feet long. That's how they came from the store. So this length right here, that's a 2x6. I did not have to cut any of those boards. That's just how they came. And then on the sides, those are the same 2x6s that I cut into 2-foot sections. So really the only cuts I had to make was to make the sides of the beds. Alright, so enough rambling, let's just get to it. So basically each bed consists of 3 2x6s on the front side. That's the side that you're going to see. The side that's, you know, the deeper side obviously. 2 2x6s on the side. The back of the bed is made out of 2 2x6s as well. And then for braces, I use 4x4s. So I just jam them up in the corner and screw all the boards into those. And then I also left some length on the bottom of it so that I can dig this whole entire garden bed into the ground and kind of anchor it a little bit. Here is a top view of the corner of one of these garden beds. And here is a side view of the corner. So super simple, see? Nothing too complex, nothing too complicated. The other thing I did that's perhaps worth mentioning is I made the 4x4 post at the front of the bed longer, and this was done intentionally because, again, the bed is going in on a hill, and I want to anchor this into the ground, so I wanted a few extra inches up front than in the back to kind of help me level the bed. Finally, the last little kind of touch that I put on this is I just took a 2x4, cut it like, you know, as much as I needed to, and made a little brace in the middle of the 8-foot section, because without it, it was a little bit floppy. And, you know, when it's full of soil and it's going to be kind of just used and abused and loved, I wanted it to be rock solid. So I put these little braces into every garden bed. Okay, so I already mentioned that cedar is water resistant, whereas Doug fir isn't as water resistant. So what do you do for that? Obviously, if you invest any amount of money into garden beds, you want them to last as long as possible. and also look as beautiful as possible. And so the solution for that is boiled linseed oil. Here, let me zoom in on this. So boiled linseed oil is essentially flaxseed oil, but a lot cheaper. It's not organic, but it doesn't matter because it's still non-toxic. And it's a way to treat wood on the inside and out that makes it much more weather resistant. So it'll be rainproof, frost-proof, that kind of thing. And so I took this boiled linseed oil that you can get at any hardware store, and I just took an old shirt. It could be any kind of rag that you have laying around that you don't want. And then I just pour some of linseed oil on rag, and I go through over here and just, very meticulously oil the beds down. So I should also probably mention that the first time that you put linseed oil on wood, on raw wood, it's going to soak it right up. And so in order to make your wood as moisture resistant as possible, you need to apply 2 or 3 coats. So, ideally you apply 1 coat, let it dry, come back a day later, apply another coat, let it dry, and then come back a 3rd time if you want. That's not quite as necessary, but minimum 2 coats. That's all I'm trying to say. I made 4 beds. The entire project cost about $300, which is significantly cheaper than had I done it with cedar. And another nice benefit of the linseed oil is they kind of make your wood shine a little bit more. They make the contrast pop. So it does, from a video editing standpoint, it's almost like raising the contrast on the wood. You have these pretty simple, cheap boards, and I just want to show you that it really pops, makes the grain pop, and it's pretty. Okay, what else can I tell you? Oh, here's a good tip. So the width of my garden beds is 2 feet wide. I did this for several reasons. Number 1, when you divide an 8-foot board, which is what all my boards were initially, by 2 feet, you can get 4 nice little sections out of it with 0 waste. So that was probably the number 1 reason that I chose to go 2 feet wide. The other reason is because these beds are going to go up against a fence, and that basically means that one side of the beds is going to be off limits. So if you go more than 2 feet, it's really going to be hard to reach, when you're weeding or trying to pick some tomatoes or whatever. So just consider that. That's kind of your helpful tip there, is if you have an area where this garden bed is going that you can walk around completely, you can go wider, because obviously, for example, if they're 4 feet wide and you can walk around the entire bed, you can reach into any point of the bed. But if your garden bed is going to be going up against something like a fence or a wall, you might want to limit it to 2 or 3 feet. Otherwise, you're going to strain your back when you go reach over it. And it probably goes without saying, but if you are making garden beds for a level area, you can just make them completely uniform on every side. You could go 3 high or 2 high. That's what 2 high looks like. That's what 3 high looks like. So you just make them completely 100% the same. And then for not very much money, with not very much skill, you can have some really nice looking garden beds, and people will be impressed, and you'll have inexpensive, delicious, very nutritious food growing. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Okay, so new day, new task, and you can see here what I was talking about. So the garden beds went in on a slant, on a slope, and that's why the face of them had to be taller than the back. So that's my little gardening project. Yes, they can be a little straighter, but it's good enough for me. Also, I want to show you that I'm going to rip some boards at an angle. So I'm going to do this for all sides of the beds. And that way I'll have a nice little insert that'll make the beds look really nice. Here you can also see the comparison between the raw Doug fir and the Doug fir that's been coated with the boiled linseed oil. So see how much more it pops? Okay, now let's talk about what I did inside the beds to manage weeds and gophers. So you can see right here, I had grass growing. That's what the bed looks like before I did anything to it. I just dug up all the grass, threw it back in after I installed the bed. A nice inexpensive way to manage weeds, this includes grass or anything else, is to grab some cardboard and lay it in the bottom of your bed. It doesn't have to be super precise or anything, you know, just lay it down like that. And ideally you want to avoid pieces that have, you know, tape or plastic on them. So, I mean, it won't kill you, it'll ultimately decompose nonetheless, but I like to just use the pieces that don't have anything on them. You know, you lay them down nice and neat, and then when that's done, you come through and you put this gopher wire down, just like that. And this gopher wire you can get at any hardware store, and you literally just staple it to the wood, and now you have weed control and pest control, and it also prevents soil from spilling out of the gaps. So you're accomplishing at least 3 tasks by doing this one thing. So with the cardboard and the gopher wire, you're ready to rock, and all you need now is some soil in your beds. Finally, when your dirt is piled inside your boxes, you're ready to start planting a garden. I hope you've enjoyed this little mini tutorial. For more videos just like this that are completely different, subscribe to my channel, Butenko Films. Thanks for watching, guys.